Welcome to Baseball Biz. I'm Mark Carbett, your host, and with me today, I have Mr. Brett Gard of the Cardy Show. Brett is the man with all the insight when it comes to anything. It's about the Toronto Blue Jays. So we're really happy to have him there today. And Brett, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good.
Busy times with the Blue Jays. I mean, wow. Where did you think the Blue Jays were going to be 2 months ago?
Honestly, man, this season to say it's been a roller coaster might be a bit of an understatement, obviously. But because there was a while there where it looks like obviously the division it looks like Tampa and Baltimore are pretty much fighting for it. We kind of gave up on that, but it looked like for a while there we had at least one of the wild card spots in pretty good control, and then we kind of started slipping, and Seattle went on that crazy run, and it got a little dicey. And yeah, it's just been back and forth. Obviously, we had that really tough series against Texas where we got swept in 4 games. That wasn't ideal, and then it's just flipped again, and now we're back in a playoff spot. Got wild card number 2 right now with 6 games to go. So I expect nothing short of it coming right down to probably final one, game 162, and yeah, looking forward to these last 6 games for sure.
And then, of course, with the Rays this past week, you went to their home and you decided to beat them a little bit and take 2 of the 3 games there. So it's a lot of good news for the Blue Jays right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was worried about that Tampa series because obviously they really, especially at Tropicana Field, for whatever reason, the Jays just don't typically seem to play well there. But they had a really good series. Obviously, the game on Saturday, kind of back and forth, and couldn't close that one out in the 9th, but I thought it showed a lot of resiliency to come back and put the performance up they did Sunday, and a really, really well-needed series win there to kind of keep the playoffs hopes alive.
One of the players I was hoping to see when you guys came back was Alek Manoah, but that isn't the case right now. There's been some back and forth with him, up and down, if he's coming to play, if he's going to show up. What's the deal with Alek Manoah?
Yeah, that's actually been a really it's been a weird situation. He's officially now, I think just last week they've announced he's officially been shut down for the year with they're not even saying some form of an arm injury. They're saying he's received multiple shots or whatever. But the more alarming news I found, it was an actual Ben Wagner, who does the radio for the Blue Jays. He was on a show in Toronto called Blair and Barker, and they were talking about that. And he kind of alluded to his last demotion. He didn't take it too well, and apparently was failing to report to Buffalo. And there was a lot of drama going on now. However, the Blue Jays haven't confirmed this; they haven't said anything about it. So it's kind of a gray area, and it's just a really awkward situation. And now I guess he's out with an alleged injury, but it's been a weird year for him. And obviously the reports of that is just kind of, it's just, I just, like I said, it's weird, and I've not something I've really seen before, but it's something.
Well, and the thing I continually try to remind myself about, these are a lot of young men and put into high pressure situations, and they've got to have a lot of confidence as a pitcher is what they're doing. Sometimes,
for sure.
Sometimes, there's insecurity there, and sometimes there's arrogance there. But I have no idea, with Manoah. I know I see him getting off the mound and chirping a few times at some people, and I thought, oh, dude, come on, really? But I don't know. Hopefully there's going to be some maturity and health that comes around for him, because it didn't really slow you down like you were saying with the Rays series. Let's see, the first game out, it was Glasnow and Bassett, and you guys took that one 6-2. To see the second game, that was Zach Littell with Ryu, and that was 6-7. Taj Bradley, who I absolutely love with the Rays and expect a lot, he went up against Kikuchi, and that was 9-5. It was interesting to continually watch these teams slug it out over those 3 games.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, so I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the series it's 5-5 now in the season series. Obviously, we got 3 more in Toronto, and they're shaping up like those could be really big games for the Jays, and obviously the Rays, because I mean, they still got a chance at the division, right? I think they're if I'm not mistaken, 2.5 back of Baltimore right now. So
It's
it's
slim.
gonna I like you said, slim, but there's still a chance. So I mean, me personally, I'm kind of hoping that that's settled by the Rays series, and maybe they don't have as much to play for, so it might be a little easier for Toronto. But I feel like that's and I mean, even if they are settled, it's those division games, whether it's the Rays and like we got 3 coming up against the Yankees right now as well. Those are never easy games. Doesn't matter where they are in the standings; they're always going to be tough, and both teams are always going to get up for those, no matter where they are in the standings. So it should be a lot of fun.
Well, let me ask you this: with all the format changes, where now we can see every team can see all the other 29 teams in a year, the division teams face-offs have become limited. And while you were just pointing out that the Jays and the Rays are 5-5 with one another, there's only 3 more games to be played. There's only 13 times that rivals face one another in their divisions each year. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, if we look at this, do you like the new format? Do you feel like that you want to see rivals see one another more often? And then the other thing is, I'm looking at the Jays and Rays, and if you look at the entire year, of the 13 games, we could see 6 of them practically within, was it 10 days of one another, or 2 weeks anyway? Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I do like the new format. I like the balance. Like I like playing everyone else more. I like the interleague play. I like that you play every team now at least once. But so that's obviously been good. And but as far as like you mentioned, the divisional games, there's less of them, and that it makes it a little different than years past for because like if you get down in the divisional race, you don't have as many of those games to catch up. So but it also kind of makes them a little more important because there's a little more sense of urgency when when the Jays do play the Rays or the Yankees or the Orioles, because you get swept in one of those series, it can really put you back. Where before it's like, okay, well, we still got maybe another 8 games against them, we can make up ground. So now I think it kind of evens it out a little more. But also, like you alluded to, they now have, I think the last time they saw each other was May, and now they've got 6 games in September within the span of a week. So maybe scheduling wise, they could maybe spread it out a little more. But at the same time, I think part of that was too, they wanted, because I mean, you look around the league right now, it's everyone is playing their own division, and some of these playoff races are wild. Like you look at the American League West, like you got those 3 teams it's a dogfight right now. And I mean, same with the NL, like that NL wild card race is pretty wild. So I think at the end of the day, they probably knew what they were doing with the scheduling, and it makes for a really fun last couple of weeks of the season. And I've been enjoying every night, every game. So,
Well, I know, Brett, when I'm looking at this and I'm saying, my gosh, how many times these guys going to see one another? Because the way it's working out with the wild card, it's going to be the Blue Jays coming to Tampa Bay again, and it's going to be like, geez, crackers. I mean, it could be a total of 9 games within half of a month. It's like,
I know that's crazy. That is crazy. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
wow. It's, the other thing too, I wonder how the Yankees and Boston fans feel about this. They've got such a strong rivalry. There's a certain angst that they like to pull out of their own, gut just when they face one another. And if they don't get to face one another enough, I don't know, Brett. What do you think? Do you think they're able to get through the year okay?
I mean, that's a great point, because I mean, obviously, when you think of great rivalries in all of sports, Yankees Red Sox is up. I would say it's top 2 or 3, honestly. Like that's a great point. They obviously don't see each other as much, but like I alluded to before, I think it almost makes it more important because they don't see each other as much. So those times they do it's an even bigger stage. And unfortunately for both those teams, they're both not having great seasons. I mean, I'm okay with it, but yeah, but the thing is, like I said, those games, they're always going to be big. They're always going to, get up for those games. And it almost makes it like, it's almost a bigger stage when they do play, because it's not as washed down as maybe before. Not that I think it ever was, but it's just a little more magnified now with the less division games, I guess.
Let's talk about some of the players on the Blue Jays. One, watching the other night and watching George Springer. Oh my gosh. That man just blew my eyes out. Watching him, whether it was going to hit and having the in park home run.
Yeah, the in the park home run, that was pretty cool.
And were there a couple of people on base too when he did that?
I believe there was two guys on base, so it ended up being a 3-run home run.
Yeah, so that's that was something. And then watch him. I think he's over in right field, and some of the catches he was making and leaping. I was like, good gravy, man. Those are the ones think of, like Ozzie Smith from Ode. He's out there practically levitating 3 inches above the ground, extending his arm to catch that ball. And it's like, wow, outstanding.
Yeah, no, that's the thing about Spring, because people forget he's a natural center fielder, right? But they've obviously added Kiermaier this year, who is, as obviously he's probably one of the best center fielders in the game. But for me, the biggest thing I loved about adding Kiermaier and Dalton Varsho is it allows Springer to shift over to right, little less stress on the body as he's getting older, but he's still an above average defender. And I think he's actually a better right fielder than he was center fielder. And because some of the, like you said, he's been making plays like that all year. His defense is never really, I'm pretty sure he actually doesn't have a single error all year, if I'm not mistaken. He's been very good defensively. It's actually funny, me and Brent, we've gone back and forth about this, because he was always, when they signed him, he's like, well, he's going to be over 30. Is he going to play every day in the outfield? And I was like, well, they might move him to right. He's still an above average right fielder. And I think obviously I'm not looking at the numbers in front of me, but I feel like this might have been one of his better defensive years in his career. Like, he's been great. Obviously, offensive production has been a little down, but I'm hoping, and it seems like he's kind of heating up at the right time, because he had a really good series in Tampa, and just kind of want to keep that moving, because it's gut check time, as you know.
Oh yeah. Well, looking at this, I did want to ask you about Kiermaier, since you brought him up. How did fans take to having the guy who's stealing Alejandro Kirk's sheet, his little cheat sheet there for the batters up there? What I'm referring to, folks, is Kevin Kiermaier, I guess about a year ago, when they were playing the Blue Jays, the catcher, I think it was Kirk,
it was Kirk, yep.
Yeah, all the players got their little cheat sheet on what they're supposed to do with different players. And he dropped his, and Kiermaier kind of snagged it, stuck it in his pocket, and took it back to the dugout with himself. And I was like, I wonder as how much love may have been lost before he came because of that little incident.
So it's funny you bring that up, because I'm not going to lie to you. It was weird, because it was kind of like, when it happened, I remember watching that game too, and like we heard the story about how he stole the card, and it was a big ordeal, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of sketchy. But also, like, Kirk dropped it. He needs to do a better job of keeping his card. Keeping that stuff close to his chest. So like initially, I was kind of like, wasn't a huge fan of Kiermaier after that, but at the same time, he's kind of doing what a lot of other players probably would have done. I don't know. So, like I said, jumping forward to when I first saw they signed him, I was kind of like, what the heck are they doing? This guy, but a lot of it was, I just hated him just because of how many times he's robbed us over the years, how many hits he's taken away from us. So it was hard to me go from that to being like, oh, he's on our team. But it really took me about maybe the first inning of the first game, because I was at the Jays home opener with the new outfield, and they made the walls, they've made a lot higher and made it more of an actual ballpark experience. And I honestly think it was the first or second inning, Manoah gives up a deep shot going dead center, and Kiermaier just leaps about 8 feet, reaches over the wall and grabs it. And so basically that was when I was like, yeah, no, I'm okay. I like this guy now. And he's had a great year, and even offensively, he's been really good, which I wasn't expecting a lot from the bat from him. It was more of give us the elite defense and grind out at bats, but he's actually done more than that. He's been great for us so far. So yeah, I'm a big Kiermaier fan now.
I could tell you when he left, a lot of fans were, sad about it. And there's certainly a lot of blue-haired old ladies too, because oh yeah, they all loved him, man. In the stadium, I can't speak what's going on for Rogers Center, but here at the Trop, they all would hold up their signs, and so many of the older women have their jerseys on, had the Kiermaier lettering on the back of them. And so
I hear that.
He's got his fan base, but I love him, man. There's something about it. He seems authentic, genuine, if you will. I don't feel like there's any. Oh, I mean, what you see is what you get, and he seems childlike in some ways in his appearance and how he not his appearance so much as how he works with people or talks with people. But that's a good thing. I don't mean childish. I mean childlike. There's a sense of innocence, I think, when I see Kiermaier. What else I want to say about him? He's just amazing to watch, and it hurt like hell to watch him taking away some runs from us at this past week from the Rays at the Tropicana. So I'm glad to hear he's doing well for you. Who else is an outstanding player for when you look across your roster right now? Who are the ones that you think people should be paying attention to if they haven't already?
Obviously the big ones are obviously Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who Vladdy has kind of had. He's obviously not up to his 2021 year where he was battling for the MVP. He's been a little up and down, but again, just like Springer, it almost seems like he's starting to heat up at the right time, which is big. But another name he's just been reactivated off the IL is Brandon Belt. They got this year on a 1-year deal, and he's actually been in a couple stretches where they weren't hitting at all. He's kind of been, I think he was leading the team in OPS for a while. He's does a lot. He has good at bats. He's got a little bit of pop, and he's like I said, he's been out with a back injury, but he's just been reinstated, and I think he should probably be in the lineup either tonight or tomorrow. So that's one thing I'll be watching for sure to see how he simulates to coming back, and hopefully he can pick up where he left off because they're going to need that bat for sure.
Well, I have to certainly agree with you about Bo Bichette too. I can't talk about that young man enough. When I look at what he's achieved and how he's adapted, he's done so much with hitting like to opposite field. I mean, if you look at him, the whole idea of shift meant absolutely nothing to him. He adapted. You know, if somebody put a shift out there, Bo Bichette said, yeah, go ahead, put everybody over to the right. I'll hit to the left. Oh, vice versa. When we got rid of the shift in Major League Baseball, I thought, I almost said, don't do it. Batters need to be better. So you take Bo Bichette as your model and figure it out, because he can go ahead and take advantage of maybe a stupid move out in the outfield because they think he's going to send it one way or another.
It's kind of like him and Vladdy came up at the same time, and Vladdy was obviously number one prospect. He was the guy everyone was talking about, but I was quietly like, I'm almost like Guerrero Jr. is the better overall talent. Like he's just got that it, but when it comes to just pure hitting, Bichette's better. I think he's the guy, because he just knows hitting. He's a smart hitter. He attacks pitchers. He takes what they give him. Like, I don't know how many times 0-2, and he's just little slap the other way for a base hit. He does it so well, and but he also, you make a mistake and he can hit it 400 feet to the pull side as well. So I feel like he's just a really hard guy to get out, and I've been enjoying watching him, and he's one of the guys I really hope that they can lock up for a long time.
Yeah, I like the whole idea of him being that strong, aggressive hitter that you said. He attacks the pitchers. He doesn't wait for them to give him exactly something that they think they're going to deliver. He makes sure that he's taking advantage of whatever's coming across that plate. And I respect that a great deal. I think his work ethic is huge, and a lot of people should pay attention to that if they haven't already. It's kind of hard not to, Brett, actually. Oh, man, oh, man. So you guys are starting a series now with the Yankees. Was it 2 games right now?
Yeah, 3-game series starting tonight. So,
okay, 3-game series.
It's a big one.
Yeah, boys. The Yankees are not the team that I think everybody thought they would be this year, and some of that's due to injuries. When you've got your captain out for several games, it has to hurt like hell. But by the same token, I look at that team and I say, Brett, these guys are aging to the degree of, why haven't they brought somebody else up? And a lot of that's because I believe they got large contracts that they have to honor, and they can't put the older guys out on the market and expect anything good returns as far as that. They'll have to eat some cash, I believe, to bring up somebody new and young.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at the state of the American League East right now, and with obviously Baltimore surging the way they are, and I mean, they still have, I think, the top prospect in baseball in Jackson Holiday, who hasn't even come up yet. Like they're not going away. The Rays are going to be the Rays. Toronto is still, I think they're still built to be contenders for the next few years. So when you look at the Yankees and like you said, those like that Stanton contract he's been having a really bad year. They're still on the hook for I think another 4 years at I want to say 25 to 30 million a year. And like and I mean, obviously they've got that Judge is kind of the guy, right? But he's also like that's on a 9-year deal. I'm not sure that's going to age well. Obviously, think he'll still be fine for the next 3 or 4. But he's also been injury prone too. Like you said, he's missed a good chunk of this year. And outside of like obviously the shortstop Volpe they brought up, he's kind of supposed to be the next. But I don't know if he's I don't think he's a Bo Bichette. I don't think he's a Corey Seager. Like I don't know if he's a superstar. I think he might turn out to be a good major league player, but like you said, I don't see I don't know where they go from here with the state of the American League East. And obviously that is a franchise that expects winning every year. Like, so it's going to be really interesting to see what they do because right now I look at that roster and I don't see much changing next year apart from a big overhaul. But like you said, with all those contracts, I'm not sure how they get that done.
Yeah, and you look at who's been managing this operation, Brian Cashman. He's been the general manager, president, whatever, for like over 25 years, I believe now. A quarter of a century. That's amazing in and of itself. And Aaron Boone, I don't know, it would be interesting. I haven't done this, Brett. I should. And let's find out which of the AL managers have been ejected the most this year. I got a feeling Aaron Boone would probably be right up around the top.
He's got to be up there. He's got to be. Like I said, I don't have the numbers, but if I was a betting man, I would put it on him for sure.
I don't know that the fans will want to keep him. You know, whether or not he's doing a good job or a bad job with the material that he has. I got a feeling he might be out after this season's over.
Oh yeah, I think 100%. Especially, they're staring at their first losing season since I would think 1992. Yeah. Which is kind of crazy when you think about it, but I think they're either just over or just under, just hovering around 500. So these last 6 games, they got a chance to finish under 500 for the first time in a long time. And I can't see that going over well in New York. So I feel like there's going to be some big changes, and not that I don't know if it's going to help, but I feel like just to save face, they're probably going to get rid of them.
Well, tell me a little bit more about the Blue Jays and their farm system. What are you looking at? Who's coming up? I mean, I had Nathan Andrews from Full Count Chaos, big deal about the Orioles. Man, they're such a young team, and they still got people coming up from that farm. What are the Jays look like right now?
Yeah, the Jays is one of, I want to say concerns, but they obviously don't have the deepest farm system right now. Like obviously, the big one is Ricky Tiedemann. He's a big left-handed pitcher who unfortunately had kind of a big arm injury this year, but he's back and he's been pitching in he's just been announced he's going to end the Arizona Fall League because he made his final 2 starts in Buffalo and they both went really well. So he's still a very, very promising prospect. I think he's actually the only prospect they have in baseball's top 100. So he's kind of the next big one. So that's the guy I'm looking for. And then also an infielder, Aurelvis Martinez. He's third baseman. He's also played a bit of second base, but he's got a lot of power, and he's a guy that I'm hoping could, obviously with looking at Matt Chapman on an expiring contract, we don't know if they're going to re-sign him or not. Whit Merrifield is also a free agent, so there's potentially openings at second and third base. So he's a guy I think it looks like he's ready and could maybe help them as early as next year, depending on what they do in the offseason. So he's another one for me to watch. And like I said, hopefully he can come up and be good for them.
Exciting times, Brett. Wow, man. Well, it's like I said, I can't help but continue to watch the Blue Jays. And year after year, I keep saying, well, I hope the Blue Jays, the Rays, or the Orioles are up there, you know. And this year it's happened. We got all 3. Yeah. New York, I'm sorry. I've got extreme prejudice there. And if they're not there this year,
on that one. Yeah. I think the sun is setting on them, and that's okay. They had a good run. It's
Well,
as much as I'd rather see the Jays at the top of the division. It's kind of nice when you look at it. It's almost literally backwards from what we used to the last 20 years. You
yeah.
got the Rays and the Orioles at the top, and then Toronto and Boston and New York both at the bottom. Like, I was actually thinking this the other day. Like, when was the last time both New York and Boston missed the playoffs? It seems like it's been a while, and so it's almost refreshing to see like new young teams coming up. And like I said, that Orioles team they're something else. They're interesting, and I think they're going to be poised to do some damage in this upcoming postseason. So they're a team to watch for sure.
It's going to be exciting. I'll tell you that much, Brett. I'm really enjoying this season and looking forward to the postseason. Got to figure out my TV schedule, what streaming service I got to have to watch everybody. So get that done. I think I'll put that on a show upcoming soon, just trying to figure out where to go. I know these are some on Fox, some on ESPN, but what streaming service I'm going to use, I have no idea. Hey, tell me a little bit more about what you and the other guys on the Cardy Show are doing these days.
Yeah, so Brent and Dave, they actually just finished up an episode with Bob Elliott, who's really big in like the Canadian baseball. He's actually been elected to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame as a writer. Spent majority of his career with the Toronto Sun, and he's just kind of covered all things Blue Jays, and even covered the Expos back when they were a thing. So it was he's kind of, when it comes to Canadian baseball, he's kind of a staple and almost like a legend. So they just finished up that, and that's been posted this past Tuesday. So I was actually just listening to that before I was getting ready for this, and they did a great job with that. That's a really good listen. And then up next, we actually got John Arezzi. He's the co-host of the Gibby Show, who John Gibbons, former manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. He's kind of taken to social media, and he's got his own podcast now. So Brent's actually been hooked up with, and they're getting the co-host of that show to come on. So we're really excited about that. That should be good, and we're hoping that can maybe propel into some good things down the road. So a lot of exciting stuff.
So if they want to find out more about this, what's the name again of the podcast, and where can they find you guys?
It's just called the Cardy Show, and we're available on iTunes. It's YouTube. You can just kind of look it up. It's Brent's the anchor. He's the runner, and then he's got myself and co-host Dave Glassford, he does a lot of good work for it as well. So yeah, kind of between the three of us, we rotate in and out, but it's been a lot of fun.
Well, Brett, I can't thank you enough, buddy, for joining us here today on Baseball Biz on Deck. Pleasure having you here, and I hope we get to have you back.
Yeah, for sure. This was awesome.
All right, my friend. We take care then. We want to thank you all for listening again to Baseball Biz on Deck today, and look forward to having you back again real soon. Remember, you can find Brett Cardy, and I should say Brett Gard and Brent Cardy at the Cardy Show podcast. So check that out. And you can find us, well, you're here. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc., or on baseballbizondeck.com. Thank you again, and look forward to talking with you all again real soon. Special thanks to X-Take RUX for the music Rocking Forward.